Welcome to the Ultimate Medieval 2 Exploit Guide. This is updated for 2024 with all of the major exploits, or at least the ones that I feel have substantial uses in a campaign. For the sake of being thorough, I'm first going to be giving a quick refresher on some of the old reliable glitches that are mostly common knowledge in the community, but stick around until the end, or feel free to skip ahead, where I'll reveal and explain some truly game-breaking strategies that the top Blitz players have utilized to conquer the entire old world 106 regions in 2 or even 1 turn. But first, if you're interested in Medieval 2 content, I would love if you'd like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check the bell to get notified for future videos. I'm getting back into YouTube for the first time in a while, and having an engaged viewer base makes that much easier for me, so thanks so much. Lastly, before we really get going, let me quickly define some terms. I might use these three interchangeably at times, but to be precise, a bug or a glitch is a mechanism that does not function as it was intended by the game's developers. An exploit is a way of using a bug or a glitch in a way that gives an advantage to the player. These are different from cheat codes in that they are essentially unintentional features, allowing players who put in the time and effort to find distinct advantages. I'm not going to say a whole lot more in defense of exploits because there are always going to be some people who don't get that distinction and consider it cheating. They'll complain and say, what's the fun in exploiting the heck out of an AI in a 20-year-old game? While I do understand where they're coming from, and I don't use most of these exploits in my normal campaigns, the line between finding and exploiting bugs and using outright cheat codes is a line that has been pretty well delineated in general gaming meta, especially when it comes to setting records and speedruns like the Medieval 2 Blitz. Furthermore, I view it as a testament to the enjoyability of a game like Medieval 2 in the first place that people are still playing it 20 years later to even know that such bugs exist. A game is so much more than its face value difficulty. Now then, onto the exploits. First, we're going to start with the granddaddy of them all, the save scumming bug, or also known as the Quicksave bug. Most commonly, these are used for agent success percentages or for auto-resolving battles. As an example, I'm going to use this English spy right here, and we are going to try to get into York. So before we do that, we're going to Quicksave, Control S, and we're going to right-click and enter the town. He died. So what we're going to do is just Control L. And it's going to reload. We're going to do the same thing again. Make sure you new save. Control S. Go right back at it. And this time he got in. Sometimes it may take 3 or 4 tries, depending on the actual percentage. If it's like a 5% chance, it could take you like 20-ish reloads to get that. But in this case, we're in. And then we can see if he has opened the gates for us. He hasn't. This is actually one of the only things that I know of that has to do with a random chance that this bug actually doesn't affect. So it can help the spy get in. It can't help open the gates. That's just sort of an is or it isn't thing, depending on the turn, depending on the RNG. Sometimes that won't be able to help you. That said, we now have the opportunity to try to auto-resolve this battle. And it can tell us the balance of power is in our favor, but that might not actually be the case. We're going to click auto-resolve, and we're actually going to get a defeat. So we're just going to load that up again. I'm going to come back in again. Try this again. Still a defeat. Let's try one more time. And this time it actually goes through. That's how to use the random chance glitch to your advantage. This next one is a crowd favorite. It is the agent squishing bug. So if we click end turn, Venice's diplomat is going to talk to me at Prague, but they're not going to say anything. Milan's diplomat is going to do the same thing. The Moors are going to attack me. That's just classic. And I think Poland's actually going to say something here. We'll see. Yeah, they went in alliance. That's fine. But as you get into the mid or late game, you'll notice that a lot of agents, especially diplomatic agents, diplomats, or princesses, will start to just do this. And it gets annoying. It takes up time. So what we can do is there's actually a method called agent squishing to take care of this. And what it means is basically you have to surround a character entirely. And so you're going to, it helps when they're up against a forest like this. They have less place they can move. So we're just going to station a unit in every spot that they could possibly go. We're going to make sure we block off the trees here. And this actually the trees make these a little bit more complicated. He can't go through these thick trees, but he could go through those trees. And because my guys are hiding in the forest, it acts like he can't see that. So we're going to have to block all those off anyway, but you can see that he can't actually go directly at that tile. He has to go through here. Probably worth explaining that there's a tile system to the map if you don't know that. So every tile is associated with a pixel, and that's determined by a map file in the game files. And so while it looks like sort of a really well-defined map, it's actually, there are specific tiles. And that corresponds to movement points you see 1, 2, 3, etc. And so what we're making sure is that all the tiles that this diplomat could walk to, we've blocked off. So he can't get through there. He can't get through over here. It is saying he can get through here, but we're actually blocking the trees. So what we're going to do is now that he's got nowhere to go, we're going to take one last unit, and we're going to stand him right here. And the diplomat falls over and dies. And then all these guys turn around to look. So that is a really seamless, easy way of removing frustrating agents. Specifically, I use it a lot for diplomats, but it also works well for getting rid of inquisitors, for heretics that have really high stats that are just hard to get rid of. It works for any agents. It does not work for any army units, and it does not work for your own agents if for some reason you want to do that. But we'll come back to that idea. This next glitch is a way to attack boats that are protected inside of a port. Typically, you're not supposed to be able to do this. So if you see, if I take this navy and I attack against the docks right there, it usually just surrounds them with a blockade. However, if I take one unit like this and right click, then we can get through that. We can attack and kill the ships. Next, we're going to quickly walk through a couple of buggy ways to win siege battles. The first of these is the draw out glitch. And this happens when you have an army that is substantially smaller than the large garrison in the settlement. If we end the turn, well, first they're going to ask us to be their vassal. To which we are going to say, no. Then they're going to sally out. And under normal circumstances, I would have no chance of winning this. However, we can just fight the battle manually. And then you're going to be ready to press the escape key. You need to press the escape key as soon as the battle fades in. Alright, so if we get it before they open that gate, we click exit battle. It will declare this a draw, and then we're able to exit out of this. If we wait till they have units that exit the gate, then it becomes a clear defeat, and then our army would retreat. But instead, because it's a draw, we continue the siege, and then it becomes our next turn. And so we are able to do this for as long as we need to. In this case, we could wait another 6 turns and do this over and over again, and we can start them out. Like I said, this is a limited application. It really is if you just have a very small army, and for whatever reason you cannot get a big army, or they just have a really, really difficult garrison. So it's rare that this has an application, but it is important to know that it's there. This next exploit is the Cavalry versus Infantry Siege Battle. We can take, this works with any cavalry unit, although light cavalry who can move faster are preferable. You'll go up against a garrison that is entirely infantry, and you take a unit, maybe 2 if you want, but really just 1 is all you need, and you'll lay siege. Alright, so now they're going to sally out. They've got a lot of guys, but this is very straightforward.
Yes, sire. We bring the battle to the enemy.
When we get into the map and it fades in, we're going to go all the way to the back of the map. You want to try and keep your horses fresh if you can. So usually a toggle between walking and running is sufficient. But because they know that they have the advantage, they're going to sally all the way out, and they're just going to chase me around the map wherever I go. So if you want to get really crazy with this, you can go all the way around and around and around, but it's really usually unnecessary and you tire your guys out too much. So what I'm just going to do is go to the corner of the map, making sure that you stay far enough ahead of their archers. They've got longbowmen here, so we're going to try and stay as far away from them as we can. And it depends how precise you want to be with your casualties. If you really want to make sure you don't take any losses, then you're going to need to do this very carefully. But generally speaking, if you just care about winning the battle, this is really easy. You just need to make sure you get them as far out as you can. In this case, this map looks like that corner is slightly impassable, but that really shouldn't be a problem. So when you get towards the edge of the map, or to determine which way we're going to go, I think I'm going to go that way. Actually, I'm going to go this way because I'm just closer to that side of the map. And then once they get in real close, okay, they're going to start to shoot. So we'll probably take a few casualties here. Yeah, we took at least 1 there. Yeah, they've got longbowmen, so that makes it difficult. But as long as we get out of there, We still have some of our unit. We'll be okay. In sally-out battles, with a few exceptions, the defenders usually leave the gates completely wide open. So we're just, now that we've kept our guys fresh, we are bringing them all the way back over to here. And we're going to send them through the gates, into the town square.
Our army is tiring.
And then once we're in here, everything is okay, because now we're going to be in the town square. We're going to trigger the 3-minute countdown, and they are too far away to be able to get back in time. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Villages are harder to do this with because they're just smaller. So the larger the settlement type, the easier this is to pull off. But in my experience, it's very, very hard to mess this up if you go all the way to the corner and then all the way in, keeping your horses fresh. So the best they're going to be able to do is maybe get to like right here by the time the clock strikes 0. And it's very, very difficult to mess this up. And there we go. We won.
Victory.
A similar glitch can be used to win siege battles with inferior infantry troops. In this example, at Angers, they have a general's bodyguard, which in this sort of scenario, with an assault, we're going to have to fight them to the last man in the town center. That's typically not a good proposition when you're taking peasants up against a general's bodyguard. However,
Yes, my lord. Preparing the men to attack.
like the last glitch, the goal is not to fight the enemy, but it is to trigger the countdown in the town square. So, we're going to set up with our ladders. And because they only have melee, and it's just cavalry, a lot of times what they're going to do is just sit in the town square.
Our men have reached the walls with their ladders.
And then we just want to send everyone over the walls. The general rule of thumb in order to trigger the countdown, if you are the attacking army, is that you need to have 4 times as many troops as the enemy does in the confines of the square. So once everyone's inside, we're going to go very carefully to the edge of the town square. And we're going to set everyone up just on the border. So we'll try and trigger it just like that.
The Lord is with us today. We've captured the enemy's walls.
And if we're very careful with our movement, they're just going to stay there and they're not going to charge us. But that's not enough troops, so let's add another unit here.
My lord,
And there
our
we
men
go.
are in command of the castle.
Triggering the countdown. Oh, just make sure no one gets too close. And there we go, we've won. The last siege-related exploit is that if you bring in a reinforcing army in a tile that's not directly adjacent to it, you can actually trick the CPU into sallying out against just the army that's besieging. Let me explain what I mean. At Paris, if we were to besiege with this army, the odds would be even enough that they would probably not sally out. But if we send just one unit, for example the general, you usually want to do this with cavalry because it's easier to get them out of the way, and just attack there, they're going to sally out against that. That's pretty normal. That's not an exploit. But if I were to take this army and put him in any spot that's not directly adjacent to Robert, so in other words, not that tile and not that tile,
Sire. Yes.
the CPU will not consider this army a factor when they decide whether or not to sally out. This is known as a forced sally out, which is not to be confused with a forced draw out. A forced draw out is when you fight the battle on a tile adjacent to the settlement. So for example, this would be a draw out right here if I were to attack this army right here. That's not really an exploit. Neither is a forced draw out, but a forced draw out is where you would put someone besieging the settlement and then you would attack another army to make a retreat to this position. That's the forced draw. I don't consider that to be an exploit because that is using the mechanics as designed. This is an exploit because they should be calculating this army into the decision whether or not to sally out. They do calculate it if the army is standing right there, but they don't in this scenario. Observe. Army is going to sally out against Robert. The balance of power is in our favor. This army is helping us out. If we go onto the map to fight this out,
Lead our forces into battle, my lord.
they're going to use the same poorly thought through strategies that they do when they usually sally out, which is to just charge at the enemy. So we can use this to our advantage because our army is going to be fresh. All we need to do is take our general and run him over to where the rest of our army is. We want to make sure he doesn't get shot here if we can. If they have light cavalry, sometimes it can be a problem using a general because they can just move faster. But in this case, we'll be able to kind of toggle him between walk and run to preserve his stamina. Meanwhile, we're going to bring in the rest of the army over here. We'll set up as we usually would. Let's get our spearmen in the front. And then we're going to set up our archers over here. Oh, he stopped moving. That's not good. Keep moving, keep moving. Okay, we're safe. The main reason for this is that we don't have to fight in the town square. It's going to be easier to route troops. It's going to be easier to route the French troops in an open field. But an additional benefit is that, like I said, they're going to behave rather stupidly. And they're going to send their general head first. Like their cavalry are just going to run faster. Everyone's just running and the cavalry run faster. So we can set up our army to take down the general first. And then that'll make routing the infantry a lot easier. So let's send the archers in here. Send the spearmen to fight him. Let's see if we can fan out a little bit so he doesn't charge our archers. He might get there, but that's really not the end of the world. Okay, good. Oh, we shot him with an arrow. Look at that. That makes things a lot easier. These next couple exploits have to do with the movement system of crusades and jihads. So, we've called a crusade already. It's on Cairo. And we have an army here that is on crusade. This is the unlimited boat movement glitch. And this is if we put this army on the boats. There's a large movement, and that's because the boats have crusade movement. But if you see, they can't go past there. That's pretty normal. However, if we take that army off the boats, that will give those boats unlimited movement. Now, historically, people have done this by attacking a settlement or attacking an army. You actually don't have to do this. All you need to do is get them to step off the boats, and then you hit backspace to stop them from moving. And now these boats, if we take them, select them all, and move them, have unlimited movement. Now, there are some limitations to this. It technically has to do, I think, with an amplification of the army's movement. So if the army has very little movement and you only have like one boat unit, then it's not going to be as effective. It's only going to be able to get you a little bit of movement. If you run these back and forth, you can eventually run out of movement, but with this many boats and this many units, it's basically a multiplication of all of the movement points in the entire army and all the movement points in the boats, from the best I can understand. So with an army this big that has this much movement remaining and this many boats, it's effectively unlimited. So we could put them in this boat and we can move them wherever we want to. As long as we don't deselect it, and as long as we don't run into another boat, we can continue to move them around. The best part about this is that if, say, we wanted this army to attack double next turn, we could leave them here, and then we could leave just one boat to keep them there, and we take the rest of these guys back. They're still bugged out, and we take them all the way back, as long as we're careful to get around this weird little port. We can take them all the way back to our home base, and we can pick up a different army and take them somewhere else. Select them all, make one step, and then we can just take them somewhere else. This next exploit is a way to attack factions of the same faith while you are a crusade or jihad, which is not supposed to happen according to the game. If I join this army on the crusade, it tells me that a crusading army cannot attack a Catholic faction, but that is incorrect. If we wanted to attack Venice, we can bring them over here, and then we can do one of two things. We can either recruit a new mercenary to join, we can leave the crusade and recruit a new mercenary who would not be on the crusade. So he now is able to attack, and we can be standing right here, and he can attack. Or we can actually put everyone on the crusade again, and then take just the general and abandon the crusade. And the general, with the entire army that's all in the crusade, can besiege. We're going to end the turn. And then the next turn, these guys are all... Yep, the Pope's not going to be happy about this. That's okay, you have to figure that out. The rest, they're all threatening to leave, but they're still part of the army for the moment. and we can go back to this general character, because if we just select the army, it's not going to let us attack. But if we click just the general, because he's not in Crusade, we can go back to this. And we can click Assault. We can auto-resolve, and it gives a clear victory. And then we can just come back out of here. And then we make sure we put everyone back on the Crusade. By the way, this is another exploit for the first 10 turns of every Crusade or Jihad. As long as you refresh all of the units who are on Crusade by toggling it off and on, you will not lose any troops to deserting, even if you're taking the army in completely the opposite direction. So we can go this way. Let's recruit some troops just to make sure Venice doesn't come back after us. And then next turn, no desertion, no desertion notices, refresh, keep going completely the opposite way of the Crusade that's in Cairo. Sicily's going to attack us because Sicily finds you and kills you anywhere, that's fine. But for the purpose of the demonstration, you'll see once again we have received no desertion notices. This next exploit has to do with Man of the Hour generals. If you get a Man of the Hour general with an army that has Crusade movement, as you can see right here, the Moors have annoyingly besieged Toulouse with a naval-based army. If we take this army without the general, fight him off, first of all, he's just going to back up. Then we're going to chase him down, and we're going to beat him. We're going to get a Man of the Hour general. If we accept that, we'll see that this unit inherits the movement of the unit with the least amount of movement in the army. So he doesn't get as much as these Crusader Knights, but he takes after the unit with the least amount of movement in the army. But he's actually still not on Crusade. So if we just click Join the Crusade, and then we click on his portrait again, he's actually doubled, which doubling off the doubling of Crusade movement is essentially quadrupled. So this is a very important glitch, and I'm actually going to return to this later because there are some more things that we can talk about. This next exploit is a rather niche one, but it does still have some limited application. If you just conquered a city, especially one that doesn't share your culture, sometimes you're not able to recruit units even though you have the buildings that would allow you to do so. It may just take a couple turns. But if you don't want to wait that long, you can do this little trick. In order to do this, you need at least 2 units of the same type. One needs to be full, and one needs to have taken some casualties. If you have 2 that both have casualties, just do a Control-M, merge them together, and then you'll get one that's full. And you also need to make sure that you have the next armor level building. In this case, this blacksmith provides light mail, and if we check on these units, their next armor upgrade is light mail. So that means we can do it. Right now, you can see that the next unit available to retrain is in. Right now, we can see the next unit available to train is in 2 turns. But if we go to the Retrain tab, right now we can retrain this full unit because we're going to be giving him the armor upgrade. But we're going to do this, and then we're going to drag the full unit on top of the not full unit, and then we're going to remove it from the queue. Now what this has done is added the difference between 150 and 84. That's a lot of math. I think that is 66 perhaps. 66 troops back to the recruitment pool. So you can see right now this hasn't changed anything, but if we do this a couple more times, put the full unit into the queue, drag the full unit on top of the other unit so that they switch places, then remove it from the queue, then you can see now it's just 1 turn away for this unit. Let's do this a couple more times. Put the full unit in there, drag the full unit to the smaller unit, remove it, full unit, drag, remove, full unit, drag, remove. And now we've put enough troops back into the pool that we're actually able to recruit right here. A couple more miscellaneous movement bugs. The first is where you need the bulk of your army to go just 1 tile further. This happens a lot when you're besieging a settlement. If I step this whole army out here so that we can see Metz, it looks like we can attack it, but actually if we select the infantry, we can see that it just turns red at the tip there. But they can stand on this tile. So what we do instead is we take the cavalry unit, which can make it all the way, and he's going to besiege. We're going to maintain the siege, and then the rest of them is actually able to join up with them, even though they can't take that last step to stand on that tile. This next exploit can be used to get your entire army as far as the unit with the most movement can go. So for example, in this army, these cavalry have more movement than these spearmen and other infantry. This does not work with the general unit, so you need to make sure that you have some cavalry or some other unit that has more movement than the others. and you can do this little glitch. So we're going to go ahead and work with the general first. We're just to get him out of the way. We want to get everyone to Antwerp. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand right here. We're going to besiege it. This works well in conjunction with the forced sally out glitch, because that's what we're going to do. What we can't do is get these infantry into that army, but we can get them onto this tile over here so that they can be reinforcements for the forced sally out, as I explained earlier. What we're going to do this is, because these guys can stand there, we just simply take the entire army, Control A to select all of them, and then we step forward just one tile, and then the game then takes the movement of the first unit displayed here and applies it to the rest of the army. So we can then bug them all along to here. They will then stand there for a forced sally out. This works with units of all types. You can use it to move units like artillery that have very low movement points in general, or you can use it if some units have already done some things that turn, their movement points have been depleted, and you can use a fresh unit to drag them along to the next destination. Now we're moving into some of the more modern exploits, the ones that have only started to really be discovered in the last couple of years. This one is not super new, but is not known by all the community. This is called the Diplomacy Overflow bug, and this is the primary one I leaned on in my 7-turn Blitz campaign in order to really get a snowball effect going across the map. Within computer programming, numbers actually exist in a circle, and so instead of numbers going on to infinity, based on the programming, there is a number past which it'll actually start to be a low number again. And I'll explain what I mean. The way that this works in Medieval 2 is that if we were to do diplomacy with, for example, a very large faction like the HRE, we're going to go talk to them, and we're going to offer them a deal that is so bad, the computer actually calculates it as a very good deal for them. So what we're going to do is we're going to click regular tribute, and we're going to ask for 300 florins, but we're going to set this to basically infinite turns. And it calculates this. If we offer map information to see their demeanor, they think this is very generous because they just can't really calculate this number properly, and they think of it as actually being very good because it is so bad. So they think this is very generous, and then we can ask of them essentially whatever we want. I'm going to ask for all their regions. They can give me all of theirs except for their capital, Frankfurt, and it's still very generous. It doesn't matter what I ask for. I can ask for map information, I can ask them to attack a faction, I can do all kinds of things, and it's still just going to be very generous.
I accept this with the utmost pleasure.
And then they love me for it too, so it also affects our relations very nicely. When you get this screen, this is something that someone just pointed out to me. You can actually hit spacebar, and then it speeds up. What's happening there is that the armies in their settlements are retreating away from it. I've literally been playing this game 20 years, and I just found out about that. Kind of embarrassing. If we click the checkbox here, we'll see that we have been given all of the HRE settlements, and to add to that, they're paying us a tribute of 300 florins per turn. That's pretty good. However, we can get more florins per turn if we really game the system. So now we have all this. Our diplomat is done for this turn, but we're going to move him towards Milan because we're going to talk to Milan next turn. And we can actually get more money out of these factions if we play our cards right. If we talk to Milan, it's important to look over here to see what their wealth status says. If it says meager, then we are probably going to bump it up just a little bit. So because we have some florins to spare, let's give them let's give them a couple of thousand florins. If we give them 1,000, when they gift it to them, nothing changed. If we give them another 1,000, they're now very poor. Now, in my experience, to get this good deal, you actually need to give them another 1,000 florins past the change from meager to very poor. For whatever reason, very poor is actually better than meager. That doesn't make sense to me, but there's a whole chart of the different statuses. We're going to give them one more 1,000 florins. Now they love us. But now we're going to go and we're going to propose a 3,000 florin tribute. Again, for 9 bajillion turns. Click the checkbox. They think that's very generous. We're going to ask them to throw in Genoa just for the sake of it. And then we're going to make the offer. And they love it. So now we have Genoa, and they're paying us 3,000 florins per turn. So this is just going to go on for the rest of eternity, or until we declare war, which, because it's Milan, will probably be pretty soon. But we can continue to do this with faction after faction until everyone has given us all of our settlements except for their capitals, and they're all paying us a ton of money for the privilege. As you might imagine, this is a very transformative exploit, and it's actually given rise to timed speedruns. There are some guys on YouTube out there who are now beating grand campaigns or various kingdoms campaigns in like 4 or 5 minutes by doing this exploit very, very quickly to get the 45 regions. So now we're moving into the territory of some truly game-breaking glitches, and specifically ones that I think most people in the community aren't aware of. A lot of these I only recently became aware of myself. This one is called the Unlimited Money Glitch, and it was shown to me by Jimmy Dude, who is the new Blitz record holder. He did the entire map in 1 turn, and a lot of it was off of the back of this exploit. I'm going to show you how it works. You can do it with any settlement on the map, and essentially we're going to sack this settlement over and over and over again to achieve unlimited money. So take a look at our treasury right now. We have 7,899 florins. We're going to attack Constantinople, and you can fight this in the map or automatically resolve it. I'm going to do this because I can. And then when this screen comes up, you want to make sure that you quick save. Do Control S, and it doesn't look like it does anything, but it actually does it behind this message. We're going to sack the settlement, and then it says game save succeeded. And you can see what our treasury total is now, over 20,000 florins. We're going to quick load. And the message comes up again, but the treasury total has stayed the same. So we're going to do a quick save again. Sack the settlement, now up to 29,000. Quick load. And you can see that it doesn't always work. So you want to have a system of backups and saves, and you want to have a save that you can go back to just in case it doesn't work. But in theory, you can chain these. But in theory, you can continue to sack over and over and over again using the save scumming feature, and you can rack yourself up a lot of money. This next exploit might be even more game-breaking. It's called Boat Juggling, and it builds upon the unlimited boat movement glitch that most of us are familiar with. Now, the big limitation of the traditional boat movement glitch is that your units have to wait until the next turn to disembark. Well, this fixes it. The limitation is that it can't work with the general. It only works with the normal army units. It also does not work with agents. Here's how it works. The first thing we need to do is trigger unlimited movement. So again, we're going to step off the boat here. And now this whole navy can go as far as it wants. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put this whole army on it. And the bug that this exploits is that army units do not lose movement points when they're merging into another navy. So if we split this navy in half, take this one forward, the one that doesn't have the units, and this one goes behind it. It does have the army. It merges into it. Then we can take any boats. It can be one boat. It can be one boat in each. It doesn't matter. Move this forward. Merge these guys up. Step forward. Merge together. Step forward. Merge together. And you can see, based upon the movement, that we're actually making progress and not losing any movement points. Where historically with unlimited movement boats, the limitation was the army units on them. We found this provides a way to overcome for that. And so you can see that this is going to be able to, slowly but surely, without burning up any of the movement points for the army that's on board. With this exploit, the only real limitation is how much patience you have to get them to the other side of the world. So now we can get here, we can step off, and we can besiege the settlement, something we definitely could not have been able to do with the old boat movement glitch. This next exploit is a little bit of a newer one with a limited application. It's called Agent Pushing, and it utilizes the same mechanics as Agent Squishing to move your agents into a better position while not reducing any of their movement. So, let's approach this right here. We're Sicily, and we want to establish diplomatic relationships with the Papal States so that we can call our crusade on turn 1. Right now, our Papal standing is not high enough for him to say yes to a crusade. So instead, what we're going to do, you can see that her movement is not enough to get us there, so we're going to push her into the right position. And by doing that, in order to do that, we're going to block off all of her other potential paths, keeping her away from this city right here, because it's possible for her to just kind of get pushed into the city, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to block that off. And then we're going to get us some additional mercenaries to help us out. He's going to stand there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send this guy to link up with that guy. It's important that his route takes him through the space where the princess is. So we're going to set that course. And then he's going to start walking. We're going to stop him right as he gets over that spot. Hit backspace. And then she's going to move out of the way. She's going to move to one of these open spaces. Now she can reach the Papal States diplomat.
Is there something I can do for you, noble lord? It would seem you are
And now we have a papal favor
farewell.
to call the crusade on turn 1. Now, let's say that you did want to move a general or an agent. Could you do it? Well, yes, but it's going to be a little bit more challenging and there are some more limitations. We're going to use the same mechanics as agent pushing to push the Doge in his boat down the coast. If we put Doge Domenico in this boat, we can see that he can't quite make it to Corinth. So, we've got to do a little trick. We're going to first put this entire army on here. Trigger unlimited movement. Step him off here. We're going to do a little backspace. And then we're going to put the Doge on these boats. Once again, you can see that he can't quite make it to Corinth. So, we're going to arrange these other boats to block him against the coast. And we want to make sure that he doesn't go out to sea, because once he goes out to sea, if he steps out into a tile that's not against the coast, this isn't going to work. So we're going to put a boat here, and then we're going to put another boat right here. And we're going to shift this army until he's out on this one. So these 4 boats right here are blocking him against the coast, and this one with the army unit is going to disembark through that space, which will force him to move 1 space down the coast without losing any movement. So we're going to have to do this a couple more times. Let's continue to block him in here, making sure that this is the only space that he can go to. Grab a new army unit. We'll go right here. Again, disembark through that space. Push him forward. Going to get this army unit out again. And we got to make sure that we block off this sea space. Disembark through there. There he goes down the coast. And you can see we're making progress. He's a few spaces farther than he was before. Now we need to make sure that he can go to that space. So we're going to put this guy in a boat. Disembark through. Push him down the coast. Grab a new unit because these guys are running out of movement. And then we're going to rearrange the boats. Go right here. We want him to go to that space. So we're going to take the army unit. We're going to go right there with the army unit. Disembark through the boat. Push him forward. I think just 1 or 2 more should do the trick. We want it to go to there. So we blocked off all the other possibilities. Making sure we block off. Don't think he can go through there, but we're just going to be sure. Route through there. Go up here, get 1 more unit. Stand there. Block off that point. Route through the space. And then we can see that we have enough movement. We can come all the way down here. And he can now besiege Corinth. And then if we wanted, we could collect all these guys up together and we could boat juggle them over here to join him. This last one of the new group of exploits might be the most groundbreaking. It's called the Mega Movement General, and it builds upon the principles of the Quadruple Movement General. Here's how it works. So we take this crusading army, led by Prince Louis. He's got high command, which will come in helpful for later. And we're going to do what we did earlier. And actually, first I'm just going to go block off Iconium so they can't retreat there. And we're basically going to try and do that process over and over again, but we've got to be very precise with how we do it. So we're going to start with this guy, cavalry unit, lots of movement. We'll win this battle. For the sake of demonstration, we're going to do an auto-win attacker, but this is a very winnable battle, and if you need assistance, you can always bring in some units from the large army as reinforcements. We're going to win that battle. We're going to get a new general. And as you can see, as with earlier, he's inherited the movement of this crusading cavalry unit, even though he's not in crusade. We're going to do another little trick. This is sort of a bonus glitch, is that when you put a unit when you put a general who's not the commanding when you put a general who's not the commanding officer with a crusading army who the officer is on the crusade, you can actually join the crusade when you have less than 8 units. So right here, as long as he's not in that first slot, you can just right click on him and you can join the crusade. Now, he's got that 4x movement that we showed earlier. I'm going to move him out by himself, and I'm now going to recruit a new unit of mercenaries. Now, it doesn't look like it from here, but this guy's actually inherited this guy's 4x movement by being hired by him. It's very important that the next move is to move our general out of that army. We shouldn't move the infantry unit, we move him. Now this guy, even though he doesn't look like it, has that 4x movement embedded within him. He can't actually move that 4x, but if we spawn a new general using him, then that new general will have that 4x movement. So, we're going to go here. We're going to win this. We're going to do auto win attacker just to be safe, but it's very winnable. Release again. New general. And now you can see he has that 4x as his base movement. So what we need to do now is move King Louis into his army over here. Do the little trick. Put him on the crusade. And now he is actually an 8x movement glitch. And you can see this doesn't even render properly, but he could walk all the way to Cairo if he wanted to. But we're not done there, because we've still got more armies we can beat up, and we can spam more armies and more generals with more movement. So let's again be very careful with how we organize this. Take these 2 units away, back to the main army. And then we have our 8x general. We're going to recruit a unit of cavalry. That unit, this general, is going to step out. He's got to move first. And now this guy has the embedded 8x movement points. So if we go attack this general right here, again, we can bring in reinforcements if we really wanted to fight this battle for real. But if we win it, we get a new general. And his base is 8x. And again, he's not in the crusade. So you know what comes next. Prince Louis comes over here, puts him on the crusade, and now he has 16x points. And he can walk quite a long ways. Now, we can keep doing this, although all 3 of these armies are no longer in a position for me to be able to fight them unless I conquer Iconium. But you could continue to spam attack these guys if you're really precise with your movement. Then once you capture Iconium, all of your generals can move free. So, if you wanted to keep moving with this, if you wanted to keep going, exponents stack up very quickly, and so you could actually end up having generals that can move entirely across the map. This guy, his limit is maybe about midway through Poland, so I'll show you what that looks like. As long as you don't do that, you'll be fine. But if you do run into other armies, you can win them, and he's still good to go. It's not like his movement has disappeared. He has those movement points for the rest of the turn. So we can keep moving him along here, being very careful not to run into other armies. Because if you run into other armies, you're going to have to fight them. Keep moving through here. Don't move into any zones of control. Keep moving, keep moving. Keep an eye on your depleting movement points, because we're starting to get there. And then, let's see, we can go over here, and then now we're out of movement points. So, but you can see, even anywhere along the way, he's able to fight battles, he's able to move, you're able to go do things with other characters, and then come back to him. They're real movement points, and they exist for the rest of the turn. And lastly, I'm going to show a couple of glitches that are legacy glitches, meaning they're not in the Steam version of the game that most of us are currently playing. They only exist in versions of the game before 1.52, which is most of the old disc copies of the game that are still floating around out there. In fact, that's the only way I was actually able to play this. I haven't had a disc version of the game in almost 10 years, so I went on eBay, found a version of the game. That one did run on my computer. Then I had to find a gold edition, got that working, just to show these 2 glitches to you guys. The first of these is a really crazy glitch that allows you to capture a settlement without fighting a battle. We're going to go attack Khan right here and expect a sally out. Now when we click end turn, they're going to sally out when we have to save before that screen shows up. And then we're going to wait until the battle screen shows up, and we're going to reload that save. And the game will displace the defending army outside of the settlement, as you can see right there, and we'll conquer it. Super easy, super overpowered. And the second glitch that is unique to versions of the game before 1.5 is the classic Merchant's Fort. This is a way of using a fort,
An honor to serve.
just like this.
Honor. Your orders, noble one.
Setting up a
You
fort
shall
right
not
here.
surrender this
Then
position,
actually
my
the
lord.
general's
Yes,
totally
my
able to leave, and the fort won't despawn if we put some merchants in it. Each of these merchants can step in here. If we look here, we can see that each of them is generating money based on their amount of finance levels, and is still collecting that from inside the fort. So, easy way to boost your merchant trading income. That concludes this exploit guide showcasing all of the major exploits that I'm aware of in Medieval 2. It is definitely possible that I missed one here or there, but I think this is definitely the most comprehensive tutorial on YouTube at the moment. If you know of one that I haven't listed, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to check it out and see if it's the case. I will say it meant the world to me to see all the comments that you guys wrote in response to my 7-turn Medieval 2 Blitz campaign. If you haven't seen that, it's on the screen now. If you want to see more Medieval 2 content like this, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification to be notified, comment below what you want to see me cover next, and I'll see you next time.